Part of another week of continuing coverage. The state resting this evening at the end of day 5 of the Dorr murder trial in Evansville. Elizabeth Fox Dorr is accused of arranging for Larry Richmond Sr. to shoot her husband, Evansville firefighter Robert Dorr. This happened back in 2019. Our Mitch Carter just back from the courtroom once again. All right, Mitch, what happened today?
Well, Randy, you just said it there. The state has finally arrested here. Now, through these 5 days, we've heard from experts, character witnesses, and of course, foundational witnesses. However, today was all about Fox Dorr herself. For several hours, the jury watched her interview with Detective Jeff Hands and Blake Keene. The two men working to learn more about that day and the hours leading up to Robert Dorr's murder before launching into a full-blown interrogation. Their main focus, the phone call between Fox Dorr and Larry Richmond Sr. That cell phone records show lasted for over 4 minutes just before Robert was murdered. Deleted from her phone, but still visible on the cell phone provider records, she at first denied the call ever took place, but Fox Dorr eventually admitted to investigators that she did talk on the phone with Richmond that night.
You intentionally lied to us when we asked you if there was any other phone calls, and you knew there was one left, correct? The one with Larry. Did you intentionally lie and say no?
Yes.
Why?
Because
Wow. That is why.
I was hoping he didn't do it.
Well, after the interview came to an end, both sides questioned Detective Hands about its contents before getting into a reading from a previous grand jury hearing. Just before 4:30, the state finally arrested, meaning, of course, tomorrow, first thing in the morning, the defense will begin their side of things. Now, it's unclear when the jury will return to their chambers for deliberation, but rest assured, we are inching closer.